Yep. Hi kids, it's Helen again. Welcome back to our Little Chefs program. I hope you're having fun with the program. I know I am. And I want you to remember to keep posting some pictures if you have them. So today we're going to talk about sandwiches, and I'm going to do a little bit of fun stuff for you because I know we just have one sandwich. So we're going to talk about sandwiches. But before we get started, I want to thank the government of Manitoba again for the Safe at Home Manitoba grant that allows us to do this programming every couple of weeks. And of course we want to go over safety tips. We always want to go over the safety tips. So today we're going to remember to wash our hands. I already washed my hands. And remember to roll up your sleeves. I always wear short sleeves, but if you don't have short sleeves, remember to roll them up, not just push them up, roll them up so that you don't get things caught in machinery or equipment or get yucky stuff on them. And I want you to remember to tie back your hair if you have long hair because you don't want hair in your food. And always ask someone to help you take things out of a hot oven. We're not going to do that today. But you know, you always want to use oven mitts or get someone to help you like your mom or your dad or grandma or grandpa. And remember, we're going to use knives today. So never, ever, ever use a knife unless you have parents with you. You never, ever use a knife unless it's in the kitchen. And you never, ever, ever put a knife in a full sink of water. You always take your knife when you're done and you put it beside the kitchen sink and you leave it there, but you never put it anywhere else. And you always use it in the kitchen, okay? So today we're going to make sandwiches, and you're probably going to need a bowl. And you're going to just need your teaspoon measure, and we're going to use your mayonnaise that you got and your relish that you got and some mustard and some pepper, and we should be good. So you can also use lemon if you want. I always like to try a recipe first, and if you like that recipe, it's great. If you want to change it up the next time, you can. So for example, with the tuna recipe, it calls for mayonnaise, relish, Dijon mustard, and pepper. But next time you might want to, or you can, maybe you don't like mustard, which is fine. You can put the mayonnaise, the relish, the pepper, and maybe some lemon juice, because tuna or fish of all kinds loves lemon juice. But give it a try, this recipe first, and see how you like it. If you don't have Dijon mustard, you can use regular yellow mustard. Just maybe I would use the same. I like yellow mustard, or you can maybe use a little bit less, okay? But let's just try the recipe as it is, and then you can modify it if you like, okay? So first of all, I have my tuna here and it's strained. So the thing you want to do with tuna, I suggest that you always buy tuna with water. You don't, least amount of salt. You don't need to add salt when you use these recipes because there's enough salt in mayonnaise, but tuna packed in water is the best. So when you drain it really, really well. Get as much water as you can out of it, because you don't want a soggy sandwich. Nobody wants a soggy sandwich. So after we do that, we're going to strain that because you want as much as you can out. So I have the tuna here, and you're going to just take a fork and flake it as much as you can, because you don't want big lumps. Well, maybe you do, but it's better if you don't. Flake it up with a fork. Comes apart quite well once it's in the tin, but just flake it up, and we'll put that aside, okay? And then we're going to use our knife, and I have a stalk of celery that I washed and cleaned and took the head off and the tail off. And then I just have, now you have white onions, and you can use white onion, but I prefer green onion, so we can do both. I'll just get a piece of white onion out of the fridge. I always have some, so I'll just do it to show you how to cut it. I'll get a little dish for it. Okay, so first we'll do the celery. So you always put the flat piece down and the round edge over, and you're going to keep your knuckles in and cut it in half. And what I like to do is I like to cut the celery in half. Because what you want is you have your tuna salad, and you don't want big huge chunks of celery because you're going to be eating it in a sandwich. So you can take your celery and you can make it into little pieces. So I just take them, and the big pieces, this one's a little bit little, but the bigger pieces, and just take your hand like this and hold it and cut them into smaller pieces. And then you stack your celery like this and keep your knuckles like this. Hold your knife like this and just dice it into small little pieces. And you can go slow, you don't have to go fast. Just because on TV those chefs go really fast, you don't have to. And keep your little knuckles in. And you can move your celery away. Just take your time. And you want it in small pieces so that when you're eating it in a sandwich, you don't have big chunks. Because remember, the flakes are little, so you want the celery and the onion to be about the same size. So that it's a nice little sandwich that you're going to get, because you're going to have all that texture in the sandwich. Now if your pile gets so that you're uncomfortable, just spread it out. You can just cut the little pieces that are loose. If you ever feel uncomfortable, just change that, okay? So take all of this and put it in your tuna. Now I'm going to do green onion, so just take your green onion and cut it in half. And do the same thing as the celery. You're going to just cut it and try and do it in thin pieces too, so it's the same size as the celery. You want everything to be the same size. And just take your time and go slow. You don't have to do fast. There you go. I like green onions in sandwiches better. Now, there's nothing wrong with white onion. You can even use purple onion. Just remember that when you make this, and if you make one sandwich and you have some filling left over, the difference between green onions and white onions is that if you put this in the fridge tomorrow, when you come back to use it again, with white onions, you'll notice you'll have a little bit of water in the bottom. That's because white onions, like most vegetables, are about 75% water. So the water will leach out of it, because when salt hits vegetables, it draws out the liquid. So you'll have liquid in the bottom. There's nothing wrong with that. Just mix your filling and it'll go back into the filling. There's nothing wrong with it, okay? Now how I cut onions, other people do it different ways. Some chefs have fancy ways of cutting it, is I just cut along and hold it together. Now that you cut it all, then turn it around. And then when you get to a smaller one, flip it on its side. Sometimes it doesn't like to stay. He can stay over there. And then you got little diced onions. You could do a lesson on chopping. And you can put as little or as much as you want, but just remember that onions are quite strong, so you might just want to put a little bit in there, okay? Okay, so mix that up and see you have a nice tuna with some nice colors in there. That's kind of pretty, right? Okay, so now it calls for a teaspoon each of relish, Dijon mustard, and mayonnaise. I'm just going to put a little bit of Dijon. A little bit of relish. Now I suggest that you might need a little bit more than a teaspoon of mayonnaise, but we'll try a teaspoon first. You want to make sure it comes together. So the recipe said a teaspoon, and I don't think that that's enough because I like my tuna to come together so that it sticks. So I'm going to add a little bit more. And the good thing about cooking is you can do that. So I'm going to put about 3 teaspoons in. Because you've got to really like what you're going to eat. In my opinion, that's what tuna salad should look like. That's what chicken salad should look like too. It should have a real nice mayonnaise taste so that you can spread it. Okay? And then a little bit of peppers. But we're not going to add salt because there's salt in a lot of salt in mayonnaise. So you don't need to add salt to it. Okay, so I'm just going to use the counter. So what I did is, you can use all kinds of bread. There's, you know, you can use French bread, you can use rye bread, you can use any kind of your favorite bread. If you want white bread, if you want a bun, there's all kinds of breads that you can do. Sourdough breads, ciabatta buns, focaccia bread, any kind of breads that you like. The best thing about sandwiches is your favorite bread or your favorite filling makes the best sandwiches ever. So what I did was, my husband really likes the harvest bread at the co-op, so we have harvest bread, and I really like rye bread, and I personally I like bread that's uncut, that I can cut myself, and I can cut as thick as I want or as thin as I want. And the good thing too is, I have a sandwich here somewhere. And sometimes you can either take mayonnaise as your base, or you can take butter as your base, something that will sit on the sandwich so that the filling doesn't make it soggy. So I'm going to use a little bit of mayonnaise, and all it does is it puts a little bit of protection between your bread and your filling, so that if you're, let's say you're making lunch, sometimes people find that when they make lunch out of chicken salad or out of tuna salad, when they finally get it at lunchtime, it's really soggy. And sometimes that's because they put nothing between the bread and the filling, and that will make it soggy, because this of course is originally made from dough. So if you don't have to use a lot, but just take a little bit of mayonnaise and put it on the bread all the way to the corners, because nobody wants a dry sandwich. Yuck. Put it all the way. All 4 corners. I don't like it when people don't put stuff on all the way across my sandwich. It's all about presentation. And for me, a sandwich is all about how much you put in it. You can't put just a little bit of filling in a sandwich. You have to make the sandwich a nice big sandwich. So when you put it on the sandwich, hold your sandwich, or you can put it on the counter too, I guess. And you want to make sure it goes to all corners, every single bit of the sandwich. And make it a nice fat sandwich. Put it on all corners so it's nice and even. So that it looks really, really nice. So that you really want to eat it. Now some people might get like 3 or 4 sandwiches out of it, but I would only get 2 sandwiches out of this, because it gives you nice protein, makes you really full, and it looks really, really yummy. I always cut my sandwiches on the bias so it looks like a triangle. And this one, I wouldn't cut this one, but I'll cut it for you guys. Now look how nummy that sandwich looks, you guys. You know, put it on a plate like that. And the other one, put it on a plate like this. Now wouldn't you want to eat those sandwiches? Don't they look wonderful? They just look fabulous. So another sandwich you guys could eat. The thing is that when you eat sandwiches, you want to eat a sandwich that you would want to eat. So another sandwich that you could try is if your mom or dad or grandma and grandpa have leftover chicken. Say you have a roast chicken, take the leftover chicken, chop it up, put it in a bowl, and then you can add mayonnaise, celery, green onions, and then you can put some craisins in it. Mix that up, put it on your favorite bread. It's such a yummy sandwich. Or you could even put, instead of craisins, you could put chopped apples in it, which is really, really good. And if you really want to put it over the top, you could put a little bit of pecans in it. It tastes really yummy. And you can also do like a wrap. So you could take a tortilla, spread it with hummus, put some peppers in it, roll it up, cut it into little slices. That makes a really nice sandwich. Or just put peanut butter and jam on it. Roll it up and have it for a sandwich. Or peanut butter and bananas. You can make all kinds of things. And it's the same as if you want to have like a sandwich, like a meat sandwich. If you go into the co-op or another store, ask them to taste the meat. So if you want a piece, if you don't know what ham tastes like, or you don't know what bologna is, or the salamis, ask them if you can taste one. But try and get them to give it to you on a thin slice. Because something, if you have sandwiches, for me, if you cut it in shaved, like ham is shaved or turkey is shaved, it will taste different than if you get a big thick slab like this. Bologna might be good like that, but sometimes sliced meat is better if you taste it shaved and thin. So get them to give you a little taste, and taste all of them if you want, to see what you like. Because if you pick the sandwich meat that you like and you taste it, then you're going to enjoy the sandwich more. And if you get it thin sliced, it makes a better sandwich. And remember that there's studies been done that children or even young adults might have hated something today, and 6 months from now they'll like it. So try something every 6 months or every year, and you might not like it today, and you might not like it in 6 months. You might not like it in a year, but in a year and a half you'll like it. So keep trying things to see if you like it, and ask your mom and dad and your grandma and grandpa if you could try things, and go to the farmers markets and go to the store and try things to see if you like them. And every time that you try them, you might like it the next time you try it. And it might be new to you, and give it a try. So if you didn't like to, I didn't like tuna salad when I was a kid, but I liked it as a teenager, and I like it now. And chicken salad is really, really good, and tortilla wraps are fun. So try different sandwiches, and you'll be amazed at what you like. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed that, kids. So now what I'm going to do is I decided that today I would teach you some different stuff about, remember I told you how baking is science. So I thought I would show you about gluten, and gluten is in flour. So I thought I would show you how to make the best pizza dough. So I make this pizza dough all the time, and you can get your mom and dad to help you make it. And this pizza dough is easy to make. Make it in like 10 minutes, maybe 15, and you can make it and use it right away, or you can make it and put it in the freezer. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a few ingredients, and we're going to put them in the mixer. Gotta measure this. Make sure it's warm enough. Yeah, I think that's warm enough. warm water. Okay, so we're going to take, just have to get my recipe here. So you just take a cup of warm water, put it in your mixer, and we take a tablespoon of honey, I'm going to put the yeast in first. So you take a tablespoon, and it has to be instant yeast. You can't use regular yeast for this recipe, it has to be instant yeast. Put instant yeast in. Put a tablespoon of honey. And a tablespoon of oil. Now you can use regular vegetable oil. I just prefer to use olive oil. It's just my favorite oil. Okay, so the reason that we use honey is yeast needs something to feed on, and sugar is what it feeds on. So it activates the yeast, the warm water and the yeast. So the yeast foams in the hot water, it wakes it up, and then the honey or sugar, but I use honey in this recipe, is what the yeast feeds on. So we're going to put the dough hook on, and we're going to stir it. So flour has gluten in it. So there's it's scientific, and I'm sure there's a different way of explaining it, but in order to form gluten, what has to happen is if you put the flour in and you mix it, and you were just to mix it and mix the dough, I'll show you in a second. If you mix the flour into this mixture and it comes together, then you have a ball of dough. And if you were to just bake it like that, it would just be flat and it would be heavy like a brick. So what you have to do is you have to build the gluten. And what happens when you knead dough, either with the mixer or by hand, is you're weaving. It's like weaving, weaving like a basket. You want the gluten to get strands across and up and down. And so by kneading, you build the gluten so that you can weave the gluten together and build strands so that it's strong enough to form dough that will bake into bread or into pizza or into pastry. I hope that makes sense. So we're going to then take either 2 to 3 cups of flour, and I found that 2 1/4 cups of flour works the best. So we're going to slowly add this. Now once it forms into a ball, which it's doing, so this is a ball of dough. Show it here. Okay, so that's just a ball of dough. If that was to be cooked right now, it would just be like a brick. There's nothing you could do with that that would make it into bread or pizza. So what we're going to do is this is going to, if you have a stand mixer, like I have, we're going to need this for 3 minutes on the stand mixer. If you were to don't have a stand mixer, you would need it on the board for 5.5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to need that now. Okay, so we've kneaded it for 3 minutes. So once you've kneaded it for 3 minutes, all you have to do is take it off the hook, or when you're done kneading it, take it out of the bowl, and you literally just take it out of the bowl, put it on your counter, cover it with a cloth, and leave it there for 10 minutes. And that's it. So I made one last night. What you do is just get yourself, this is it after 10 minutes. And then I just take, it comes up nice like this, and I just took it, put it in a plastic bag, and I made 2. So I took this one, put it in a plastic bag, take the air out of it, and I put it in my freezer. And the other one, we had homemade pizza, and it is, I use it all the time, and it's just, it's absolutely fabulous. It makes a really nice, I just put it on a long sheet pan, and you just roll it out, and it makes a wonderful pizza dough. I think everybody would love it. It's just so easy. It's that easy. You just knead it for 2 to 3 minutes, sit it for 10 minutes while you get your pizza stuff that you like ready, and it really makes a nice pizza crust. And what you do is you bake it at 450 degrees. Just put it on your cookie sheet, and 450 degrees for about 13 to 15 minutes. It's just a really awesome pizza dough. So I hope you really enjoy it. It's lots of fun. So now I thought that we'd show you kids a little experiment. So remember when I told you that we use baking soda for leavening? So baking soda, or baking powder first. Baking powder is what we put in cookies. Remember I told you that baking powder, or baking soda is what we used for things to rise when we put them in cookies, because they're leavening. So I wanted to show you what it does when it's in the cookies. So I put the baking soda in a pan, and I put some sparkles in it so that you could see what it does. So then when you take the liquid, I hope this works. Can you see inside the pan? No. Tilt it. So then when you take the baking soda and you put it in the pan with sprinkles and you add liquid to it, it starts to bubble. See how it's rising up there? And all the things are starting to, I hope that's working. Hope you can, yeah, see how it's bubbling? See how it's all sparkles are all bubbling? Can you see that? Hope you can. Kind of a cool experiment. So you can do that at home. I hope it sees that. I can see it here is when you put the bubbles. See all the bubbles from the sparkles? The sparkles are bubbling. Can you see that? You can do that at home. As soon as liquid hits baking soda, it starts to bubble. And that's what happens inside your cookies. This is a leavening agent. So you have your flour and all your ingredients, and then when the oven heats up, and the butter and the melts, and the vanilla melts, and the eggs, and the liquid hits the baking soda, it starts to bubble, and it makes your cookies rise. And that's what that experiment is. So you can try it at home, but I guess I can see, I'm not sure if you can see it as much on the camera, but all the sparkles are bubbling. And I just want to say a shout out to Hasselfield Drugs, because they have the coolest spray bottle, and I was able to find some glitter for you. So thanks, guys. But I hope you were able to see that. And then, when we do baking powder, when you take baking powder Maybe this one will be a little bit better. And so baking powder is the same. It's also a leavening agent, and it's the same as baking soda, only it has a little bit of acid added to it. So if you take baking powder and you add liquid to it, it does the same thing. See how it fizzes? See how that fizzes? Oh, it should almost comes over the top. Isn't that cool? So that's what happens when it's in your cakes. The liquid from the butter and heat hits liquefies, and then it hits the baking powder and it all bubbles up, and that's what helps your cakes rise, and it's called a leavening agent because it rises up. Pretty cool, huh? So that's some of the science of baking. I think that's a pretty cool experiment. You guys can try that at home too if you get your baking soda and your baking powder. Pretty cool, huh? I'm going to have quite the mess to clean up now. And then one other thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to probably need my breadboard for this, is I want to show you homemade vanilla. So this is a vanilla icing. I don't know if you can see through the light. So this is my vanilla that I make. Can you see that through the light? It's not quite ready yet. So this is my vanilla that I make. This is with uncut vanilla pods. And this one is with cut vanilla pods. So I don't know if you've ever seen vanilla pods before. But that's a vanilla pod. So usually you guys get vanilla, and it's usually just in a bottle like this. And it's usually, most people buy artificial vanilla extract. And I don't really want to guess what's in that. But I usually buy real vanilla, and you'll notice if you buy real vanilla, the difference in price is probably triple. So this is made with alcohol and vanilla. I don't know if you've ever smelt a vanilla pod before, but if you take it, so what I do is I take my alcohol, I put it in these, and then I get about 25 pods. You can put as many pods in it as you want. And the uncut ones, so what will happen with the uncut ones, these are already cut. So what will happen is the seeds will come out into the vanilla. And I take them, I fill them up, and I put them in the basement in a cool, dry place, and I cover the jars in darkness. And in about 3 months, I'll have nice dark vanilla, and I'll take the vanilla pods out. So this one, because it's cut, the vanilla will be infused with vanilla with seeds in it. The reason I do uncut ones is I can then take this pod in about 3 months, and what I'll do is I'll take it, you have to be careful, and I'll cut it down the center. And when I open it up, in the middle, I can then take my knife and run it down the center. And this is gold. Those are vanilla pods. And you can put this in desserts. So you can, this is what you'll see when you buy ice cream with vanilla beans in it. You'll find this, these are all vanilla pods. So I can put this in desserts that I make, like a custard, or I can put it in ice cream, or you can put it in all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to put that back in there, and I'm going to put this back in here. But that is a real vanilla bean. So you can buy them and make your own, but I just thought you guys might be interested in seeing what real vanilla beans look like. And it's really easy to make. And you get vanilla beans. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I guess we will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed.